I don't know any big words or complex theories. I just wanted to mention that I started on this path of curiosity about addiction in 1967 when I started my own recovery. And I had questions, and the question was, why? Why? And I have to say that I've been on a 42-year path of discovery and recovery. And I am just so happy to be here this weekend with this knowledgeable, wonderful group of people that are just fulfilling my dreams. I have to say, the dream of good information about food addiction, because that's really been my agenda over the years, to provide good information about food addiction. And to start, I'd like to just enter the mind of a food addict for a moment. Eating until I am stuffed or drugged to sleep, not able to predict when the binge will stop, craving sticky, pasty, greasy food, running out of binge food, then frantically searching for another fix, knowing that I'm sick and dying, scared and angry, obsessed with food, obsessed with weight, forgetting how bad it was the last time, believing food is my friend and comfort, eating to feel better, always feeling worse, hiding what I eat, where I eat, how I eat, and how much I eat, losing control of food and life, feeling helpless and hopeless, powerless over addictive food, never hungry, never satisfied, lying to myself and others, having fewer healthy choices, sick and tired of being sick and tired, questioning why I am so weak, dieting, restricting, purging, running, hoping to beat this thing, hating how I look and feel, wondering if there's a way out, binge eating despite the painful consequences, wanting less, eating more, food is my drug, and I am full of shame. I am a food addict. So that's entering the mind of a food addict. We've talked a lot about brains and bodies this weekend. And I really started to empathize with those rats. What a life. I mean, we recognize that life absolutely. So I'm not going to add, I mean, everybody this weekend has talked about obesity. I can't give you any facts about obesity that haven't already been given to us, and those red maps are so alarming. They tell the story of what's going on. I know when I travel around the world that people in other countries, even those who are food addicted, are shocked by the size of Americans and the prevalence of obesity here. So I think we lead the world in obese population. I do want to say, because I'm here to talk about food addiction per se, and not particularly obesity, only as it is a consequence of our disease of addiction. And there are many consequences of our disease of addiction: mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. Many. You get the idea from what I read of how food addiction can affect a food addict's life. But I do want to say that not all food addicts are obese, and not all obese people are food addicts. So we are looking at a particular segment of the population who are addicted to food. Now, we have three types of eaters in this world. We have users, we have abusers, and we have addicts. Let me talk to you about the user for a minute, because I have a beloved user that is a friend, actually the wife of a very dear friend. They live right across the water over here in Olympia. And the husband is a recovering food addict. and the wife is a normal social eater. The husband gave her a nice box of chocolates for Valentine's Day. And he said to her, "Oh, I haven't seen you eating those chocolates. Have you enjoyed them?" And she said, "Oh, yes, I have half a piece every day with my tea." I can't contemplate a half a piece of... In fact, I'm still thinking about Kelly's Buzz Bar that was up there on the... I can't get it off my mind. Not that I want one. I'm so appalled by it. But can you imagine eating half a piece of candy with your tea in the afternoon? That box of candy probably lasted 2 months. I don't know. It was amazing to me. Then we have the abuser. Now, abusers look just like food addicts. But there's a significant difference, because they don't experience obsession, compulsion, or dependency, and that's the important thing, dependency. An abuser may stop suddenly and never return to use. And we look for the DSM-4 criteria for substance abuse if we were going to translate this into addiction terms. And I have to say that I've been in this field for, well, since the early 80s, you do the math. And I stopped using the term eating disorders many years ago. I talk only about food addiction. I don't use the term compulsive overeater. I don't use the word eating disorder. I talk about food as an addictive substance. And I've been doing that since the early 80s because I truly believe that when I started my own recovery, I could see that I had handled candy was my drug of choice exactly the same way as I handled alcohol. And when I got into alcoholism recovery, I picked up the candy again. And it's not so much a substitute addiction, it's a substitute substance. Because there's always a substance there waiting for us, or maybe it's even a substance we're already using. I, in my life, have been addicted to alcohol, nicotine, and refined foods, addictive food triggers. So back to the abuser, they're the heavy users, they look like us, and I think probably in our experience we've known some people who maybe were using drugs in the 60s and they stopped using drugs, and they got their lives together and they got PhDs, and then they went to work in treatment centers, and they couldn't figure out why those addicts couldn't stop as easily as they did. Well, the fact was that addicts experience obsession, compulsion, loss of control, tolerance, withdrawal syndrome, and often have a family history of addiction. Dr. Noble and I were talking yesterday afternoon, and I said, are we born with a dopamine deficiency? I knew the answer. I want you to know I knew the answer. Are we born with a dopamine deficiency, or is it created through use of the substance? And he said, we are born with it. And I truly believe that. I believe that addicts are born, not made. I believe that abusers are made, not born. So I think that's the differentiation. Now, we are going to find abusers in our 12-step programs, especially I think we find them in OA meetings, and they can do 3 weigh-to-measure meals a day. They read the big book and have every line highlighted in yellow, and they get in recovery, they stay in recovery, and they don't have the typical relapses like we who are genetically predisposed to the disease of addiction. So we find the addict in the DSM criteria for substance dependence. And as Dr. Hogel said, the DSM doesn't like the word addiction yet, but isn't that interesting that maybe DSM-5 will be addiction related?